A stack of unopened kits fills closet space where your clothes used to be. A couple cheap bookshelves you bought off the internet sit in the corner, with empty shelves. A glass display case from IKEA should be sandwiched between them, but you can't be bothered to unpack the thing, let alone assemble it. A moderately successful YouTube channel about Gundam plastic model kits drones in the background, only half paid attention to while you thumb your way through social media. You are burnt out, and the motivation for the hobby you started out loving is gone. And it sucks. So what does this have to do with the 1/100 full mechanics Gundam Barbatos Lupus? Well, nothing really. But that's not the point. I shot this footage about 2 years ago for a video on how we might never see a master grade from Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. It was to be a study on Gundam design and what makes an effective master grade. I never finished it, because at the time, I was too burnt out on content creation to do so. The message of my YouTube channel and live streams has always been just build for the sake of building. But what happens when just build isn't enough? I get asked all the time, on the internet if you can believe that, about how to overcome this phenomena commonly referred to as burnout. And maybe you've been there too, where you're on kit number a dozen or so and the spark just isn't there for you anymore. What I've found in talking with people about this, though, is that what someone might call burnout isn't as simple to define as those two syllables. Now, before I get too deep into this, please keep in mind that I'm not a psychiatrist, and that turning to someone that shitposts about plastic model kits in his spare time for advice is generally considered a bad move. What I'm aiming to provide here is my observations over the last several years in this hobby, and running a community of like-minded shitposting hobbyists, which you can join in the links in the description below, shameless plug. Please consult a physician and/or therapist if you have any negative feelings that extend beyond this hobby into what you think might be depression or worse. Anyway, burnout. Before we can address the problem and hopefully alleviate it, we have to identify what burnout actually is. The Oxford English Dictionary, which seems to know a thing or two about words, defines burnout as physical or mental collapse caused by overwork or stress. In model making, burnout commonly refers to the lack of motivation, or general reluctance, to build a plastic model kit. It can apply to kits you already own, or not having the gusto to get off the couch and buy a new one. But it's not that simple. Burnout is usually more than just laziness. Even if a self-depreciating "I'm just lazy" is how you choose to address the problem when talking about it. From my experience, it usually starts as either obsession, overwhelmedness, or a combination of the two. With that being said, recognizing that you're stuck obsessing over a project or an aspect of a project, or acknowledging that you're overwhelmed by, say, your backlog or the complexity of a task at hand, won't necessarily help you overcome burnout per se, but it will help you understand the cause, which is the first step in overcoming it. So really, it does help you overcome it, and I'm a liar. But real, honest-to-Jesus Yamato burnout goes deeper than just getting stuck on a project. Let's look at our definition of burnout one more time. Physical or mental collapse caused by overwork or stress. Well, unless you're running a marathon while building your kit, which is probably very unsafe, by the way, we can rule out physical collapse in the context of hobby burnout, which leaves only the mental side. Burning out on any hobby means you really just can't bring yourself to do the thing you enjoyed anymore. Which brings us to the whole reason why I included a mental health disclaimer earlier in this video. You look at all of this work you still have to do, all of your kits left untouched, and negative thoughts start to spiral. Things like, "I'll never finish this. No one cares about the work I'm doing. It's not worth the trouble. I'm not worth the trouble." It's really not much of a stretch to say that hobby-related burnout has similar characteristics then to a depression-like episode. And what I've found when talking to other fellow model-making shitposters is that it can be often overcome with similar mental health techniques. Now, I know a handful of you are already writing "actually" down in the comments below. Please just hear me out before you do. This self-depreciating behavior is commonly referred to in the psychiatry world as catastrophizing. Writing for Psych Central, John M. Grohol, Psy.D., states that catastrophizing, in the most basic of terms, is, quote, an irrational thought a lot of us have in believing that something is far worse than it actually is, and that it, quote, may lead you to self-pity, to an irrational negative belief about a situation, and to a feeling of hopelessness about your future prospects, end quote. These are all sentiments I hear all too common while talking to other builders about burnout. Now, I'm just a guy that builds model kits on the internet for fun validation. A Psy.D. I am not. So I'm not going to tell you have clinical depression. I'm also not bright cognitive behavior therapy delivered by Palm 2 Face twice daily, Noah, so I'll refrain from hitting you until you stop screwing up. What I can say with certainty, though, is that putting a name to a feeling is critical to facing and making peace with it. So, what can you do to stop catastrophizing, tackle your overwhelming tendencies, stop obsessing, and find the motivation to love building again? Take a damn break. Much of what I hear from other builders I speak to is how they feel so guilty that a project has taken so long, something that I experience all the time, I might add. Or that they have kits that have been in their backlog for so long, months or even years, and that the motivation simply hasn't been there to build. Stop. Step away for a while, reassess your goals, and come back when you're ready. Model kits, contrary to popular belief, don't have an expiration date. You are the hobbyist here. If you're not enjoying it, just stop for a while. I know from first-hand experience that Yoshiyuki Tomino won't come over your house and kick your dog if you don't finish that perfect grade Mark II you got from that one store that isn't even open anymore within an arbitrary length of time. I would not recommend just sitting around on the couch though. Even if it's playing a new video game that you've been meaning to try for months, doing something with your free time will keep your mind active. And always remember that it's okay to enjoy some relaxation time. In the meantime, try setting up a task list, working backwards from your ultimate goal with your project. This will help you visualize the road ahead and break the project down into smaller, more manageable chunks, making it easier to tackle. For example, let's say that your goal is to, paint a perfect grade Gundam Mark II exclusively with nail polish. Not that I would have any experience with such a thing, of course. If that's the end goal, we know that we need to obtain nail polish and paint the kit. How are we going to paint it? With hand brushing or an airbrush? Do we have the proper tools? If not, how do we obtain them? What if one painting method doesn't work out? What's our backup plan? Does it make sense to cut and clean all the parts first? That seems like a lot of questions, granted, but none that can't be answered simply and clearly, one at a time. Each answer becomes a new task on the broader roadmap of the project. And now we can clearly see our steps, one through a bunch, all the way up to our completed project. Congratulations! You now know basic task management skills. Good job, you! Now, your overwhelmedness isn't just in your primitive meat brain where it can age as poorly as G Gundam's racial stereotypes, no. Instead, it's down on paper, all in order, and oh my god, that's a lot of things, I'm never gonna get this done, I didn't realize there was so much until just this moment, I'm freaking out, what do I do? Stop. Breathe. You got this. There's a classic Reddit post that talks about the concept of no 0 days, which I'll link to the description if you haven't seen it already. And it applies especially well to the hobby of model making. So much of the joy of building a kit is the simple pleasure in completing a task. So try to focus just on task 1. You can even take each of your tasks and put each one on an index card if that helps you focus on whatever task 1 is, and then just file the rest away until that first task is done. If that task still seems like a lot, go deeper. Break it down even further. What will it take to complete this task? No one task in your list should take longer than the time you have to work on your project in a given day. Then, make it a point to complete something, anything related to your end goal, every single day. Did you cut a sprue? Did you clean a nub mark? Did you perform your bi-weekly blood sacrifices to keep the core block of the real grade full burner held together? Then you accomplished something. You completed a task. You succeeded. You didn't have a 0 day. I never did finish that IBO Master Grade Design Study video, and that's okay. Maybe I'll pick it up again someday. Maybe I won't. Both answers are equally right, because I'm still doing something related to what I love in its place, and learning to take breaks whenever I need to. Finding motivation and crawling your way out of burnout starts small, but take solace that you will get out of it. And it begins with allowing yourself to celebrate your small victories. Everyone in the model making community has been where you are right now, whether it be related to the hobby itself or something else in our daily lives. On your path out of burnout, remember that no one is forcing you to build Badgunpla. Build for you. Your kits and this community will be here when you're ready, no matter how long it takes for you to move forward. We'll see you next time.